Hey everybody, and welcome once again to Time Out with Kevin Gallagher. I'm of course your host, and it's a pleasure to have you here at the news desk. And we have a telephone in front of me. Guest is far away, but we have some really important information to get out to you tonight. So hey, you watch the show every week. It's Friday nights, 8:30 p.m. on Channel 23, and also 11 o'clock in the morning on Monday mornings. But you can also, if you missed a show, want to see a show again, want to go back into the archives, you can go to two places. Number one, you can go to kevingallagher.me. KevinGallagher.me is the one-stop place where you can go to see the shows, hear the radio show, the Twitter feed, etc. So go there and check that out. It has everything there. You can also go to timeoutyoutube.com. Timeoutyoutube.com is the place where it will get you right to the YouTube page, and all the shows are there. This show is there. They're all there. So check that out and listen. Easiest way to do any kind of syndication. You like a show, you like the subject matter, grab the embedding code. You don't need my permission. Don't write me on and ask me if you can embed it. Just go right ahead, embed the shows into your Facebook pages, blogs, etc., and get the stuff out there. That's why I do the shows. Now, we've been hearing a lot about Ebola, and before I get to that, you can go to also kevingallagher.me to get to the radio show. And the radio show, I've had this guest on the radio show and on the TV show, Dr. Rebecca Carley, and we'll be here with her tonight. But the radio show is on Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., and that's Eastern time, so you can check that out. It's 2 hours, expanded format. Dr. Rebecca Carley, like I said, is with us. We're going to be talking about the what we see in the news all the time with Ebola. And we're going to have her, we've had her on before to talk about vaccines and the stuff that goes on with them. But Dr. Carley, I want to thank you very much for being on the program tonight. How are you?
As I always say, I'm still breathing. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're very welcome.
And, I'm looking forward to giving the listeners something to remove the fear that they're being bombarded with by the mainstream media.
Yeah, and we've talked off air, and you believe that what's going on with this is basically a hoax. Now, why do you believe that?
Well, because I've actually talked to people that know people in West Africa. They're giving us these numbers of people that are dying. It's a total fraud. And I want to refer people to a very important article, truthsector.wordpress.com, titled Final Nails in the Ebola Scam Coffin. The 2014 Ebola outbreak is a proven fraud. This is just a scare tactic that's being used in order to indoctrinate people with fear in hopes that they will accept the Ebola vaccine, which will spread Ebola.
Right.
Vaccines spread the disease.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And we know that because if you look on the stuff for the flu, when they do the flu vaccine, it says that you need to isolate yourself from other people for, I think, if I'm correct, 21 days or so, because you become a carrier of the illness and you can give it to other people.
Right, because they're inoculating you with flu, yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so they give you something that's going to actually spread the disease.
And that's their intention. We both know about the depopulation agenda, and the vaccines are how they're actually going to spread the disease. But let me also say that what I tell people, what I would do if I was you, because of course I don't practice medicine or give medical advice after the medical mafia went after me, colloidal silver is my answer to the problem. Colloidal silver kills every virus it's ever been tested on. So myself, my 3 dogs, and my 2 cats take it every day. So you don't have to be filled with fear.
That's good. Did you by any chance hear about the fact, and I've seen pictures of this, where they've added a stone to the Georgia Guidestones with just the year 2014 on it?
Yes, I did see that. Very interesting.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Well, we're coming down to the crunch time when, at the top of the Georgia Guidestones, it says they want to decrease the population of the world to 500 million.
Right.
And here comes Ebola, and the Ebola vaccine. So, they're doing what they do.
And before we go any further, if you can put her graphic back up with all the information. What's interesting is on the graphic it says Dr. Rebecca Carley. There's a phone number, which is your home phone number, by the way. It's 828-294-0662. And if
home office, yes.
Yeah, home office. And if you have Skype, Dr. Carley, it's Dr. Carley, Carley 1, and you can get in touch with her over Skype. I've done it before. It actually works. And right down there at the bottom of that, it says reversingvaccineinduceddiseases.com.
Coming down to the crunch time when, at the top of the Georgia Guidestones, it says they want to decrease the population of the world to 500 million.
Right.
And here comes Ebola, and the Ebola vaccine. So, they're doing what they do.
And before we go any further, if you can put her graphic back up with all the information. What's interesting is on the graphic it says Dr. Rebecca Carley. There's a phone number, which is your home phone number, by the way. It's 828-294-0662. And if
home office, yes.
Yeah, home office. And if you have Skype, Dr. Carley, it's Dr. Carley, Carley 1, and you can get in touch with her over Skype. I've done it before. It actually works. And right down there at the bottom of that, it says reversingvaccineinduceddiseases.com. So these are all great ways in which you can interact with our guest tonight. So if you've watched this show and it's generated some questions, you have a way in which you can get in touch with her. So that's fantastic, and I thank you for doing that. I have a few guests over the years that do this, and I always get a good response from it.
And if I could just interject, Kevin.
Yes.
See, there's lots of good news. What I realized from the time I had my son and he was brain damaged almost 18 years ago from vaccines. After all these years of research, I realized that vaccines cause all diseases in internal medicine in people and in pets. And what I do for people is teach them how to reverse those problems with natural therapies.
Yeah.
So there is good news here, but the best thing you can possibly do is don't let them vaccinate you in the first place.
Yeah, it's amazing because I've come across stats and things that said that if you take the flu vaccine more than 3 times, your chances of getting like Alzheimer's goes up dramatically. Mm-hmm. Is that the case?
Because flu vaccines have mercury and aluminum.
Yeah.
And that's what causes Alzheimer's disease, yes. And of course, anybody that's in a nursing home are forced to get the flu vaccine every year. So that's how they're increasing the dementia, and then they put them on their toxic drugs, and then they die.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now back to Ebola. I found it very, very interesting that they actually sent troops. I mean, I'm just trying to picture this. You have a deadly virus that's allegedly going through, Africa. So you're going to send troops. I mean, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, wait a minute. What are they going to do? Take their big guns and shoot at the virus? I mean, that's crazy.
Well, it's insane. And of course, the reason they're doing this is because those 3,000 troops that Obama is sending there will be used as experimental guinea pigs for the Ebola vaccine.
Right.
And that will help in spreading the virus.
It's amazing. Because what's also interesting, you take a place like Liberia, I've read statistics where something like 70% of the people in that country have a cell phone. And we know what cell phones have on them. They have little things like a camera installed into them. And I haven't been able to come across any pictures of anybody with the Ebola virus online. I mean, how hard is it to shoot a picture with your cell phone and upload it?
Well, not only that, but the people in West Africa are killing the UN peacekeepers, as they're called, who are going in there because they know that they're actually spreading disease. Mm-hmm. So the people in West Africa know what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing that gets me is you have somebody that just said an NBC cameraman, for example, had come down with the Ebola virus. You have all that, and then you hear all these stories about a guy flying 28 hours on a plane to go to Houston or whatever it is. or they physically take somebody that they say has this illness and they bring him or her to the United States. And to me, that is the height of insanity. If you have something like Ebola, which really doesn't have a known cure, wouldn't you, if you're going to treat them and everything, keep them where they are so that you keep any spread of the disease local where it is so you can contain it. You don't put them on an airplane and fly them thousands of miles to another continent where they can infect people thousands of miles away. Now, I'm not a doctor. I have no medical degrees, but to me that's insanity.
Yes,
that's insane.
Yes.
You know,
and that's because they want to spread it. But as I said, colloidal silver will get rid of it, in my opinion.
No.
And, the FDA is coming after people who say that they don't want it to be controlled because, like I said, the vaccine will spread it.
Wow. Now, how does colloidal silver go after viruses? Why does it work?
Well, basically, it destroys the metabolism of the virus or bacteria or one-cell parasites or fungus. I've been using it myself for about 18 years, and thousands of my clients have as well. And it's just amazing what it does. You can breathe it, you can drink it, you can put it topically on wounds or burns. And it's been known for a couple hundred years how good this stuff was. But of course, the FDA doesn't want it to be out there because they're a for-profit corporation, just like all levels of the government and all agencies, and their goal is to sell drugs.
Now, speaking of which, I've seen interesting evidence that the Ebola virus has been patented.
Yeah. Talk about a red flag. It's been patented by the CDC, and Mike Adams of, what's his website, naturalhealth.com. I don't always agree with everything he says, but he did write an article about this. He's got links so you can actually read the patent. What's up with that? Why is the CDC patenting a virus?
Yeah.
That they're then using to make a vaccine? That's beyond suspicious.
The stuff that I've looked at, though, says that there's like 4 different patents out there. I don't know if that's the case, but that's some of the stuff that I've come across and read, that there are actually 4 different patents. I've heard this talked about on other radio shows, and to me it's like, how do you patent a deadly illness? I mean, it's like, oh, we own this is ours.
Well, once again, it's insane, and this is not the first time. Mycoplasma incognitus, which is responsible for the infectious part of the Gulf War syndrome, has also been patented. So they've done this before.
Is there any logical reason why somebody would patent a virus or patent an illness?
Well, you know the answer to that. It's insane.
Yeah, it's totally insane, but I don't even understand how somebody can actually patent that. I mean, it's something that occurs in nature. I mean, I can't go and patent vitamin C or vitamin D. It's something that happens in nature. I didn't create that.
Well, actually, these viruses were created. And anytime you hear about an emerging virus, you know it's emerging from a laboratory.
Okay.
There are over 3,000 biowarfare laboratories just in this country alone.
Okay.
So they're tweaking viruses, they're creating these situations. That's what they do.
Well, that's been done before with the Spanish flu outbreak in the early 1900s, correct?
Yeah, actually, there's an excellent book, Vaccination's the Silent Killer, by Eleanor McBean and Ida Honoroff, which talks about that. The Spanish flu wasn't even the flu. There were soldiers in this country that received multiple vaccines because, see, the viruses mutate and they combine with each other.
Right.
And they created what they call Spanish flu. It had nothing to do with Spain, but then that was another excuse for them to vaccinate people.
So what exactly was it?
It was a combination of all these viruses that were inoculated into the soldiers.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And so what they did is inoculated the soldiers, they sent them out to wherever, and then they just kind of spread it, didn't they?
Right. As a matter of fact, one of the most amazing things in that book is that the two authors actually brought a lawsuit in 1976 to try to stop the swine flu vaccines that were going on, and the judge dismissed the case, telling them that the only way they could, bring the case forward is if they had the vaccine and they died.
Well, if you're dead, how do you bring the case forward?
Exactly.
That's because he's saying you only have standing in the courtroom if you're dead?
That's what he said.
Okay, that's very interesting. What does Ebola do to the human body? What makes it so frightful?
Well, allegedly, it causes you to bleed out from, all your orifices. It causes fever and diarrhea. But let me also bring up that this is very important for people to realize. While this Ebola scare is going on, if you go to a white coat with a fever, diarrhea, and anything else like that, you could likely be placed in quarantine. So if I was you, I would not do that because, we're heading towards martial law. We all know that. It's very obvious. And once they cross martial law, then everything's going to break down. People won't be able to get food. This is one of the reasons, I'm sure, why 2014 is on the Georgia Guidestones now.
Because I've heard in Liberia, they had an entire lockdown of the country, and then what they did is they said people couldn't leave their homes for a period of time. So this is what they were doing to try, as they said, to try to eliminate the illness so it wouldn't spread.
Right.
So if that happened here in the United States and people couldn't leave their homes for 3 weeks, and people usually don't keep more than a couple days worth of food, what do you think is going to happen in the country?
Well, the same thing that's happening in Liberia. The people have no food. That's the main effect that this has caused. They are not dying in mass quantities like we're being told. They are, being deprived of food and water and things of that nature.
Huh. Because I had seen... No, go ahead.
I'm just saying that's a bigger danger.
Yeah, it is. And I had seen a photograph a couple of weeks ago, and they claimed this was somebody in Africa somewhere, that he was on the street. You saw the blood and everything, and they're saying, oh, he's dying of Ebola. But then when you actually went and researched the photograph, you found out it was actually an individual who was hit by a car. And he's sitting there in the street, and there's blood and everything. But, I mean, the fear aspect is what we need to address here, because fear is control. And fear puts your brain into a different type of thinking state. It goes back to the fight or flight mechanism. And
right.
So you're not thinking rationally. And if you're into that state of mind, you're much easier to control, and you're much more willing to hand to government all kinds of powers to, quote, keep you safe.
Right. Not to mention the damage it does to the immune system, any kind of stress like that. But what people, and I'm sure the people that listen to your show and my show realize, we can't believe anything that the mainstream media tells us. They are controlled by the same forces that are bringing about all of this, injury to the people of the world.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing when you look at something like Reuters news service or AP. AP, for example, and Reuters, I think it was way back decades ago, was brought up by the Rothschilds. See, the news that you're getting, you have to look at where it's coming from.
No question. I mean, I usually have my television on when I'm working on my computer, and occasionally I watch Al Jazeera. That used to be a halfway decent, news station, but it's the same as everybody else now. Same Ebola scare, just lying to the people. It's unbelievable.
Now, what's your best, I don't want to really use the word advice, but what would you want to tell people about Ebola, how to spot it, how to, because what I'm looking at is they're not even quarantining people. And when I talked to you earlier today, I say, look, it's just me. I don't have a medical degree or anything like that, but I'm hearing about a disease that has a 21-day quarantine period. In other words, not quarantine period, but incubation period. So somebody can have it, be walking around, interacting with people, be spreading this, and never even know it. And then, Shazam, 22, 23 days later, they're showing the signs, like some of these pictures that we put up with, and that's what they're starting to look like. So wouldn't you, to be on the safe side, like there's that picture of the guy's hand, to maybe quarantine somebody for like 28 days just to be safe, to know that, okay, this person does not have it. Oh, wait, look, they're showing signs of having a rash, all the things that would indicate that this person's, carrying Ebola, and we need to do something about it. But I don't see any of that happening. I see them being shipped all over the country. I saw an image earlier this week of the guys, I think it was Atlanta, that they're out there with a power washer on a sidewalk, and the guy had Ebola, they thought, and he puked on the sidewalk. So we're going to use a power washer and the guys that are doing this aren't even protected. They're in regular street clothes. And I'm like, is anybody thinking about what's going on here?
Well, like we discussed earlier, first of all, they're saying 21 days. You can't make a generalization like that, because how much anybody's going to be able to fight any virus depends on the strength of their immune system, and that's why it's important to detoxify yourself and take natural supplements, like vitamin C is a good one too, to help to fight off whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, who's going to do a job like that in the first place?
I wouldn't. Sorry, not me.
No, it's ridiculous.
I wouldn't do that. But what, like I said, what's the best thing people can do? Because, what's eventually going to happen is what? They're going to pull the same stuff they did in Liberia or wherever. I've been showing a couple of pictures of what's been going on in Uganda. But the thing is, stay at home. Okay, that sounds good, but if people don't have the food, what are they going to do? They're going to want to leave. They're going to want to go and, the boredom alone, if they don't have utilities, if they don't have any of that, what are they going to do?
Well, and where are they going to go to get food? Because if martial law occurs, there's not going to be any shipping of foods to grocery stores. The grocery store that I go to, I can already see a decrease in what's on the shelf.
Right.
This has been going on for some time. Well, the main thing not to do is not to get a vaccination, not to go to the white coats. As I said, if I was anybody listening, I would take colloidal silver. You can get a generator to make your own for pennies a day, and then when the FDA takes it off the market, which they're trying to do, you'll be able to make your own.
How difficult is it to make your own colloidal silver, and how is it done?
Well, it's actually very easy. At the bottom of my reversingvaccineinduceddiseases.com site, under the links section, I have a link to the generator that I use. You just take distilled water, you put it in a flask, and you put in a stopper that's got 2 silver rods, and then you turn on the electricity, and over a couple hours, it makes colloidal silver.
And that's the stuff that'll wipe out the virus, which is a beautiful thing.
All viruses.
All viruses.
Never been tested.
You know, and I find it really interesting because I learned about colloidal silver a couple of years ago, and up until that time, Dr. Carly, I'd always heard that nothing could destroy a virus. I had that kind of drilled into my head in grade school, and then come to find out, hey, wait a minute, colloidal silver does that, and it'll wipe out everything. And I guess this is kind of, where we get the term silver bullet from.
Maybe so.
Maybe, right?
But you see, actually, I was in medical school in the early 80s, and the physician's desk reference actually had silver mentioned.
Okay.
But they took it out a few years later because, like I said, Big Pharma does not want people to use it because it will kill everything. It'll
wipe everything out.
Right. No antibiotic-resistant organisms, et cetera, et cetera.
They're just gone. They're done.
Many examples we have of how these agencies are preventing us from having knowledge about what actually works.
Hey, I got a few minutes left. Anything you'd like to cover before we go off the air?
Well, let me just mention a very important book that everybody should read, if you can. It's called Science for Sale. It's by David L. Lewis, and this is a whistleblower who used to work for the EPA, and he talks about all the cover-ups that are going on. Basically, cash is king, and that's what's happening. That's what I always tell people. If you read any scientific article, you have to question it, just like you said. Who is funding the study?
Right.
Because that's what's going to tell you how much you can believe it.
Yeah, it's amazing because then you know if there's an agenda attached to it.
There's always an agenda
Yeah.
if it's by some institution, and that's what he talks about in this book. All of the institutions have been corrupted by different entities that give them cash. If you're in medicine, you have to publish papers. Academic fraud is rampant. I saw it for myself, and that's one of the reasons I eventually realized that my profession is totally corrupted.
That's probably quite a shock to you when that happened, I imagine.
Yeah, it was a very dark night. Very dark night.
Very interesting. And folks, to get in touch with Dr. Carly, how I have those ways up there, but is there a best time to call you, best time to reach out to you?
I take calls from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern every day.
Every day. And are you getting a lot of calls since this whole scare has come up?
Well, I haven't gotten calls specific to Ebola. Most of the people that call me have autoimmune disease, cancer, seizures, whatever. But, I've been on radio shows pretty much every day talking about this, so I'm trying to inform people of the scam that's going on and let them know that, it's all psyops.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Now, you also have your own radio show, and tell people how they can hear that.
Right. Well, I just changed stations. I'm going on the libertybeacon.com within the next couple of weeks. I don't have an exact time yet, but that's where I'll be.
Okay, that sounds great. And folks, I'm Kevin Gallagher. For Dr. Rebecca Carly, I thank you so much for joining us here tonight. That half hour goes really fast. And again, KevinGallagher.me, timeoutyoutube.com is a great place where you can go to get more information. For Dr. Rebecca Carly, I'm, of course, Kevin Gallagher. Please tune in again next week to see what it is we'll be talking about. Until then, have a great night. Bye-bye.